Okay, so this is another one of my short lectures relative to certain topics under the Revised Corporation Code, no, under corporation law. So one of the more controversial, no, or more innovative features of the Revised Corporation Code is the introduction of the so-called one-person corporation. Diba? Sabi natin at the start of the semester when we talked about the changes brought about by the revision of the Corporation Code in 2019, ano ba ang mga nabago? Essentially, hindi ganun kadami, but one of the major changes, no, major amendments would be this introduction of the concept of a one-person corporation. So, it is a corporation with a single stockholder, and only a natural person, no, trust or an estate may incorporate to become a one-person corporation. This is now embodied under Section 116 of the Revised Corporation Code. So therefore, alin yung mga hindi ubra na mag one-person corporation even if they want to? Banks and quasi-banks. Okay? Pre-need, trust, as well as insurance companies, public and publicly listed corporations, non-chartered GOCCs, and then a natural person who is entitled to exercise a profession may not be able to organize as a one-person corporation for the purpose of exercising that profession except if there is a separate law allowing that. So ano yon? Example natin would be tayo o kami ng mga abogado. So we cannot create a one-person corporation. So kunwari, leilaniebernadettecabras Incorporated, in order for me to exercise my profession as a lawyer. I cannot do that. Okay? So partnership pa rin. Hindi pa rin nababago yon. That when you want to exercise a profession, then as a group or whatever, then what you can do as a business organization, what you can establish is actually partnership. Kaya yun nga, mag-solo ka. Solo practice, but not incorporate as a one-person corporation. So these are specific prohibitions on what, no, entities, no, whether natural person or not, no, whether natural or not, can create or establish a one-person corporation. So obviously, banks and quasi-banks kasi they are regulated separately by the Bangko Sentral, of course, or the Monetary Board. Then we have pre-needs, trust, and insurance companies, may separate regulation then. And public and publicly listed companies, iba din ang treatment sa kanila. GOCCs, no, so syempre, and I think, no, the reason behind this prohibition for these types, no, of corporations to be incorporated, no, as a one-person corporation is in the fact that they involve public interest, no? Not just public interest but fiduciary in nature, diba? Kaya nga heavily regulated by agencies other than the Securities and Exchange Commission, such as banks and other financial institutions. So medyo iba ang treatment sa kanila. If that is the business that you want to go into, that is the endeavor that you want to undertake, then you must incorporate as a regular corporation and not as a one-person corporation. Okay? So, is there a minimum authorized capital stock? No. For a one-person corporation. Except, okay, if there is a special law requiring that particular corporation to have minimum capital stock. Okay? Should you file corporate bylaws or submit your corporate bylaws? No, you are also not required. Okay? And instead of incorporated, na usual natin nilalagay after the name of a corporation. Sabi ko kayo na example ko, leilaniebernadettecabras Incorporated. If I'm going to be an OPC, then ang tugtong sa pangalan would be OPC, either below or at the end of the corporate name. So XYZ Corp will now become XYZ OPC. Okay. So, what about the articles of incorporation? Syempre, meron pa rin naman. Bylaws lang, hindi sila required to submit. So, an OPC shall file an AI, no, under Section 14 of the Revised Corporation Code. So, ano nakalagay? So, if the single stockholder is a trust or estate, the name, nationality, residence of the trustee, administrator, guardian, executor, kasi syempre estate, di ba? Etc. Okay? Now, you also have to include the name, nationality, residence, contact details of the nominee and alternate nominee, and the fiscal year, of course, or in its absence, the calendar year. Okay? So, basically, dadagdag mo yon kung estate ang entity na nag-establish as an OPC. Okay. Now, what about the corporate officers of an OPC? Sino-sino sila? Okay? So, the single stockholder, kasi mag-isa siya, di ba? So, siya rin ang sole director, siya din ang president, siya din ang self-appointed treasurer. Talk about being the judge, jury, as well as the executioner. But, of course, that is a legal fiction. So, inalaw ng ating revised corporation code, ganun siya. So, nasa kanya na. Siya na lahat, di ba? Nasa kanya na ang lahat. Parang kanta lang yan, ni Daniel Padilla. So, we have director, siya. Siya din ang president, siya rin ang self-appointed treasurer. But, he cannot be the corporate, okay, secretary. Okay? Now, as a treasurer, dapat mag-bond siya. Kanino? Sa SEC. Okay? Magpa-file siya ng bond, magpa-post siya ng bond because he is the treasurer. Okay. Now, sinong corporate secretary? So, magde-designate sino si single stockholder ng corporate secretary who shall be responsible, of course, for the minutes and other records of the corporation, notifying the alternate nominees, if there are alternate nominees, notifying the SEC of the death of the single stockholder, and then calling the nominees or alternate nominees, if there's a need to elect a new director. Remember, yung mga nominees natin na yan, usually, kailangan sila kapag estate yung ating entity na nag-establish ng OPC. Siyempre, pag single stockholder, individual, natural person as a stockholder, so, ayun, di ba? Iba ang treatment natin. Okay. But, who can you designate, di ba? If you're a single stockholder, so, bakit ka naglalagay ng mga alternate nominees, etc.? It is in the event of one's death, di ba? Obviously, pag namatay ka, sino? Parang, sino take ng mantle from you. Hindi natin pwede sabihin mana, pero who will now take your place as the director, president, and treasurer of the corporation. Okay? Or if the single stockholder becomes incapacitated. Okay? So, that alternate nominee, that nominee and alternate nominee shall take his place. Okay. Now, what else should you note about an OPC? So, kailangan meron pa rin siyang minutes. And this would include actions, decisions, and resolutions taken by the one-person corporation. Okay? So, meron bang written resolution? Yes. Signed and dated by the single stockholder, recorded in the books of minutes of the corporation. Okay? So, yun na rin yung pinaka-meeting. Diba? Kasi hindi ka naman siya magtatawag pa ng meeting dahil siya nga lang mag-isa yun. In the case of an individual single stockholder, meaning a natural person. Now, kapag naman entity, di ba, siyempre, kung sino man yung nominee niya, di ba? So, yung nominee na yun, siya din ang maglalagay. So, we're talking about a scenario here wherein one person will do almost everything except being the corporate secretary, which is after the fact na. Kasi, let's say I had some corporate act, diba? Ginawa ko yung isang corporate act as the single stockholder. So, ilista ko lang, lagyan ko ng date. And then later on, I will ask my corporate secretary, please put it in the minutes. Please put it in the record or the books of the corporation. That's about it. Tapos na, diba? So, walang pwede makialam. Diba? It can be done, the recording of the corporate act can be done after the fact. Okay. And in terms of reportorial requirements, so the one-person corporation, of course, would have to provide the annual financial statements, audited by a CPA or a certified public accountant. Okay? Report containing explanations or comments on every comment made by the auditors in the report of the audited financial statements. Then disclosure in terms of self-dealings and other reports which the SEC may require. So para siyang sole proprietorship, di ba? Pero in a corporate form. And even if it's a bit difficult for us to imagine this, because it's difficult for me. I sometimes find it funny that we have a one-person corporation. I am not questioning the wisdom of our legislators class, ha? Na okay to, di ba? That pwede ang legal fiction that we have a one-person corporation. But I still find it difficult to wrap my head around the idea of, let's say, me, diba, as an individual, being the president, as well as the treasurer, as well as the single director, no, of the corporation, and then para kang may journal lang that you're going to put in every day, parang diary, diba? Na, okay, I'm going to do this for the corporation, I'm going to write it, and then I will date it, and then it will be recorded in the books, and that's about it. And one-person corporation ako. I always tell my former students in this class na hintayin natin, di ba? Hintayin natin, tinan natin, wala pa kasi maabot, of course, sa Supreme Court, as far as I know, na any case where the issue is the one-person corporation and how this is done. Because I am really looking forward to any case that might reach the Supreme Court on this, so that malinawan, kasi talagang parang hindi ko maisip paano kaya, diba? Paano nagiging iba ito, no? Paano ang effect in terms of liability. So in a way it upended all of what we know pagdating sa korporasyon, kasi diba sabi natin the corporation becomes a separate entity, and it only acts through a board, no, so collegial action. And yet here we have a one-person corporation wherein it is clothed with the separate liability, no, feature of a corporation. But at the same time, no, how would you now separate the individual, no, the natural person comprising the OPC with everything, diba? Yun, yung medyo nahirapan ako, no? Honestly, nahirapan ako na paano ko ma-imagine how to do that, diba? Para feeling ko kinakausap ko yung sarili ko, diba? If I am the one-person corporation. But be that as it may, okay? It is now in the law, and it is now an option which one may have in relation to the choice of what business organization to adopt. So, now, okay, what if the corporation, the OPC, failed to submit all of these reports, no, reportorial requirements, diba? So, according to the revised corporation code, it may become delinquent. So, the SEC may place it in delinquent status, no, if it fails to do that for 3 times, no, consecutively or intermittently within a period of 5 years. So, dapat mag-submit pa rin ng yung mga audited financial statements and all other reportorial requirements. Okay? So, let's go back to our discussion, no, on liability. Remember, one of the very big advantages of the corporate setup is the limited liability of the stockholders. So how would this apply in terms of this OPC? So the sole shareholder, diba? Kasi nga nag-iisa siya, the stockholder in this, no? Claiming limited liability has the burden of affirmatively showing that the corporation was adequately financed. Okay? So, you cannot just claim na yung limited liability mo. You have the burden of proof that it was adequately financed, separate from your own. Okay? So, I think this is the safety net, no, provided by the law doon sa ating question. Paano yun, di ba? How would you now yung gray area ng alin yung liability mo, 'di ba? Sa pinag-uusapan natin about business organizations, para ka ring sole proprietorship, wherein the liability will now be yours, 'di ba? Personal capacity mo talaga, hahabulin ka ng creditors mo kasi sole proprietorship ka. But what about this legal fiction of a one-person corporation? So sabi dito, okay, that is what you should do. Meaning that as a single stockholder, single shareholder, if you are claiming limited liability, you must show that the one-person corporation which you formed was adequately financed. Now, if you cannot prove that, okay, that the assets of the OPC, no, is independent of your own or of your personal property, then this stockholder, no, shall be jointly and severally liable for all the debts and other liabilities of the OPC. Okay. And of course, doctrine of piercing the veil of corporate fiction applies. Kasi nga, di ba, titingnan, dami mo lang ba to, gusto mo lang ba na gamitin to circumvent the law or to perpetrate fraud, etc. So you really have to prove that may sariling assets yung OPC, separate and distinct from your own assets, no, your own money, no, as in your personal capacity. If you cannot prove that, then you will become liable for the debts of the OPC. Okay? So, yun naman ang rule in terms of liability. Now, again, tignan natin paano gagawin dyan. Diba? Paano mangyayari dyan? How can we impose this? How can we ensure that indeed, diba, the single stockholder, no, was able to prove that independent yung OPC from him as the individual who formed or established the OPC. Okay. Now, for corporations, no, with stocks, so stock corporations, tapos someone purchased or acquired all of the stocks of that corporation, then pwede na siyang mag-convert into what? Into an OPC. Okay? And kasi for all intents and purposes, yun na rin ang effect kasi siya na ang bumili. So kunwari si A, binili niya lahat ang stocks ng XYZ Corporation, so he may convert the XYZ Corporation into an OPC. Okay. Now, what about the other way around? Can an OPC convert into an ordinary stock corporation? Kunwari ako, gusto ko lang subukan, mag-OPC ako. And then eventually, I found it, funny, or I found it, tiring to be the sole director, president, blah, blah, blah. So, I decided, okay, I'm going to convert it into an ordinary stock corporation. Can I do that? Yes, you can. Okay? It may be also converted into an ordinary stock corporation after notifying the SEC, and you're going to enumerate the reasons why you would like to convert. Okay? And of course, you have to submit all of the documentary requirements, etc., and file it with the SEC. Okay? Now, namatay si single stockholder. Ano pwedeng mangyari? So, the nominee or alternate nominee must, of course, transfer the shares of the OPC to the duly designated legal heir or estate within 7 days. So, hindi naman siya pwedeng mag-take over for life. No? Parang caretaker lang siya for that period. He must already transfer the shares to whoever is the legal heir. Okay. So, if you are the heir, what will you do? May choice ka rin, diba? So, you need to notify the SEC if you want to wind up or dissolve the OPC kasi nga namatay na si single stockholder, or if you want to convert it into an ordinary stock corporation. That is also one of the reasons why an OPC may be converted into an ordinary stock corporation. Okay. Now, what would be the result of such a conversion? Same thing with merger, consolidation, and all these things. you will now be responsible, depende kung sino yung paano yung convert, will now be responsible for the outstanding liabilities, no, as of the date of the conversion. So sa'yo assets, pero sa'yo din ang liabilities as well as obligations as of the date of the conversion from OPC to ordinary stock corporation. Okay, so that is how, no, an OPC works theoretically. I'm saying theoretically because again, I am not aware of any case yet which might illustrate how this works. So lahat tayo, no, medyo at a loss pa paano kaya nangyayari, diba? So theoretically, this is what the law provides. Ito ang konsepto ng one-person corporation, a single stockholder, you know, can form this and can enjoy the benefits, no, or the perks of having limited liability like any other corporation, as long as they follow these rules and guidelines, as well as the requirement as to carrying the burden of proof that indeed, no, the OPC is independent from the personal assets of the forming, no, or the single stockholder. Okay, and pwede ba siya na forever na OPC kung gusto niya, pero kung hindi, di ba, syempre pag namatay siya, pwedeng ma-convert, then pwede rin naman na even during the lifetime of the single stockholder, the OPC can already be converted into an ordinary stock corporation. So it is really for convenience, no, for convenience of those who would like to utilize or adopt the corporate setup, and yet they are individual, no, shareholders. So sila from start to finish. Sabi ko nga, no, joke namin, no, when we read the first draft of this, para bagay na bagay ito sa mga antisocials, mga ayaw ng kasama, 'di ba? Yung they work best, no, alone. So yes, this may be good. I don't know yet, no, kung ano nga ang pwedeng maging advantages nito eventually. As I've said, we need to wait for specific cases to see what issues might arise with this legal fiction, but we're hoping, no, and I've said before, I do not question the wisdom of this particular provision, and it is actually exciting to look forward, no, to cases, no, which might bring to light any possible problems, no, that might arise from this particular animal. Para siyang kakaibang animal, para siyang mutant, di ba? Korporasyon pero single, parang sole proprietorship in terms of control, pero in terms of liability, siya ay korporasyon. Okay, so let us wait and see.